What's up, you guys? Slim here with a new video today. We're here to do the next episode of How Meta Relevant Is This Card, and we are talking about Waking the Dragon. Since this card was released in our new set, FLOD, Flames of Destruction, this card has already made an impact on the game and the meta, and a lot of people have been talking about this card. I wanted to give my 2 cents on it. I think it's one of the craziest cards I've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a really long time, and it's very simple in what it does, but it's the fact that it really does come from player interaction, and at times, I guess, the ability of your opponent just thinking they have the game won, and out of nowhere they can lose instantly. They can be locked out of the game, and I think it's pretty crazy. For those of you that don't know what Waking the Dragon is, I'm sure you guys do by now, but for those who don't, it's a normal trap card. It's a common trap card that came out of the new set. I heard it's short print, so it might be a little bit harder to get, but it reads very simple. If this set card in its owner's control has left the field because of an opponent's effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can special summon one monster from your deck or extra deck. A lot of people have talked about it, and we're just going to cut straight to the chase. I doubt that we would ever be using the summon from deck effect unless, like, honestly, I can't even think of a situation. If you guys can, put in the comments below. But when it comes to Waking the Dragon, we're talking about the extra deck. And we're talking about the extra deck because you have a plethora of options that you can use for Waking the Dragon. But before we talk about like the options and how good they are against the the current meta and whatnot, we're going to talk about more so like this interaction with this card. So this card's interaction comes completely from your opponent. You could set it and your opponent can destroy it, and they can destroy it in many different ways. If you look at the way the format is, Twin Twister is a very popular card, Cosmic Cyclone is a very popular card. They're used to combat pretty much the same matches. They're used to combat True Draco, etc. And those are just general ways that the card can get removed or banished, from the field. And by doing that, you trigger the card. You have the ability for, at your leisure, pick a card from your extra deck to summon, and now extra decks have started to include certain cards due to that, and I feel like because of that, it's really made a difference on like the meta. If you guys have seen any of the couple deck profiles that I have up on the channel, especially Tristan's Altergeist, he cited Waking the Dragon and he cited Ultimate Falcon, the Raid Raptor card. The card is absolutely insane, and when we talk about more so like how this card does against the current meta, we'll get into more like what those options are and what their impact is. But overall, it comes from your opponent's interactions. It comes from something as simple as making a Grand Pulse and popping the card, something as simple as MSTing the card, something as simple as, like I already mentioned, Twin Twister, Cosmic Cyclone, etc. We could go as back, as back old school as we want, and Breaker the Magical Warrior the card, and it would, trigger, and then, you just get to pick cards from your extra deck. Now, we're going to talk about, of course, the point of the video. How meta-relevant is this card? Is this card meta-relevant? Yes, this card is meta-relevant. The reason being is that this card is like an actual trap. So I think Simo brought up a very good point in his video on this card. He talked about the fact that this card really amplifies what a trap card should be in Yu-Gi-Oh! A trap card should be a trap. It's something you walk into, something that you don't expect, and something that can completely shift the tide of the game. And I feel that Waking the Dragon does all of that. It's something that your opponent won't see coming unless there will be there is one way they'll know, and we'll get into that later in the video. But they won't see it coming. They may think they have the game won. Say you have 2 back row, you Twin Twister them both away thinking you have a clear shot for game, and all of a sudden Waking the Dragons activates and you summon like an Ultimate Falcon or something your opponent can't get over, can't destroy. They probably have to look over like, can I read that? They read and they're like, oh, well, screw this, like, oh god, I might have lost, or fuck me, I lost or something, and it's pretty crazy that a card like this was actually produced. I think this card is really interesting because, like I already said, it really is a real trap card. A trap card that is a real trap and can literally just change the tide of a game instantly. So yeah, I think this card is meta relevant. I feel that it has applications against almost every deck. Now, when it comes to Pendulum Magicians, we'll start with Pendulum Magicians. I'm not so sure like what the card you could summon against them is. I mean, there is Ultimate Falcon. There is Beals. Now, I know I mentioned Beals only because I had a couple games against Pendulum Magicians in the past when I was playing a couple early versions of the 60-card deck, and I made Beals against them, and I noticed they struggled to out that card. Now, granted, I'm sure there's ways to get around it, of course. They have their resources and whatnot, but I feel like that at the time, that was a card that was really hard for them to out, and I'm assuming the Ultimate Falcon would be the same way. I think that, like, against Pendulum Magicians, it may not be what you want to side in. They don't really destroy back row. And that's the thing, is you need to think about which decks really are, not in a sense greedy, but they're designed to destroy back row to get their, you know, to get their whole engine going and to get their win condition on. So I would say that probably against Pendulum Magicians is not that good. But if we move into the next best deck in everyone's eyes, True Draco, this card absolutely shines. And the reason being is that True Draco plays 3 Disciples and 3 Heritage, and those are MSTs. They pop back row, Masterpiece pops back row, and they could so easily trigger this card, and you just bring out Ultimate Falcon, and they're just like, oh crap. So we're gonna talk about, you know, against True Draco, why you would want Ultimate Falcons. Ultimate Falcon, you just summon it. It's unaffected by other card effects. Its effect is you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card for the rest of the turn. All monsters your opponent controls lose 1,000. Also, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated. I mean, you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! If it has Raid Raptor material, blah blah blah. Once per turn during the end phase, you can make all your opponent's monsters lose 1,000 attack. And if your opponent controls no face-up monsters, inflict 1,000 points damage to your opponent. So this thing is just a walking nightmare. It has 3,500 attack. It's huge. It can't be, you know, it can't be targeted. Like, this card is nuts. It's just unaffected. Like, that's crazy. Like, I mean, like, really, like, this card is nuts. I think, like, as soon as this Waking the Dragons came out and people noticed, oh, I can play Ultimate Falcon, you play this against Masterpiece, and I mean, they really don't have that much of an out. I think I heard people say you have to put them on Kaijus, and let's face it, True Draco ain't going to be playing Kaijus. Even in the mirror, they don't play Kaijus, so you're definitely not going to see that coming from them. So this is an excellent card against True Draco. If Ultimate Falcon's not your taste, again, you can play Beals. I mean, Beals is another option. That's another card they really struggle with. So I feel like those two are the best options for playing against True Draco. Now, if we look at the rest of the meta, there's decks like Mech Knight Invoke. There's decks like, you know, granted, this meta is going to change very soon once Dark Saviors come out and everything becomes brandish this, brandish that. You know, things are going to change. But I mean, for right now, pretty much the meta that we had, the only difference now is that we have Altergeist, we have Gokis, we have like all these new decks, especially with the new Nightmare cards, but I feel like the same rules apply. Like, Ultimate Falcon is an insane card. Other options you have at your disposal, people were saying that this is actually a really good strategy against Trick Stars. So everyone knows that Trick Stars struggle from getting around big monsters, but one thing that I thought was really cool was that there is this old fusion monster, and I don't think a lot of people remember it, but it's a card we actually played back in the day, like when our fusion deck was, you know, just unlimited, and it was called the Last Warrior from Another Planet. For those of you who don't know, level 7, it's a warrior, 2350 attack, 2300 defense. It simply reads, when this card is special summoned, destroy all monsters on your side of the field except this card. As long as this card remains face up on the field, neither player can normal summon, flip summon, or special summon any monsters. So basically, you summon this against Trick Stars, and you literally just, they can't summon anything. Like, at all. Like, that's nuts. Now, granted, I've heard that this is a good strategy, but at the same time, it makes me wonder, because certain Trickstar decks play heavy trap cards. They play a lot of Torrentials. They play Blazing Mirror Forces, etc. So it makes me wonder if this really is the best call. I mean, I've heard people talk about it, and I think it's pretty cool as an option, but I think, again, there would be better options, you know, other options you could play. And I'll bring up the last card that I feel that it's really interesting. And to be honest, if I play this card, outside of Ultimate Falcon because of True Draco, once True Draco dies out, the card that I personally would play is Naturia Exterio. For those of you that know about this card is nuts. So it's a 2800 attack, 2400 defense. The way you summon it actually is by fusion summoning using Naturia Beast and Barkion. And its effect reads, when this card is face up on the field, you can negate the activation of a spell or trap and destroy it by removing from play 1 card from your graveyard, then sending the top card of your deck to the graveyard. So basically, the minute you have a card in your graveyard at any time, this effect continues, because you'll banish a card from your graveyard, mill another card, banish a card from your graveyard, mill another card, etc., etc., and you can negate every spell and trap your opponent plays. That is insane. I think that is absolutely insane, and to be honest, that is one of the best options I think you guys have at your disposal. This card is so good against so many different things. So many decks rely on spells. This would absolutely destroy 60 cards. I'm just telling you right now, like, my god, it would massacre 60 cards. Sure, they can go into XYZs and stuff, but I mean, you're going to be playing a deck that has reactions to what your opponent does, plus you're negating every spell they play. I mean, at that point, it's kind of GG, because it's like, if I can't get my monster, you know, if you're answering my monster effects and every spell and trap I have, then what deck do I really play with? So I think those three options, the Ultimate Falcon, the Last Warrior from Another Planet, and Naturia Exterior are very cool. Other options I'm sure are around. I feel that right now in this current meta, these are the cards people are talking about, and for good reason. So again, I feel that yes, Waking the Dragons is meta relevant. I feel that it is going to have an impact, and I feel that this is a card that you might be prepared for or you might not be. And the reason I say that is because the one way that you will know or have a hunch that your opponent is siding this card against you is if they're using different color extra deck sleeves. So if you notice, a lot of players use the World Championship qualifier sleeves on their extra deck, or they use different kind of extra deck sleeves. They use the same color sleeves on their side deck. Well, if you're side decking an extra deck monster, you'll be able to tell. You'll be able to tell that it's coming out of a sleeve, going into another sleeve, and another card is being swapped. If you notice that, you can most likely count that your opponent is doing that. Or if you're playing a graveyard dependent deck, they're playing a card like Dweller. Dweller is a very popular card that goes in people's side decks if they can't fit in their extra deck. So I feel like as long as you're paying attention to your opponent when you're playing, you won't blindly walk into this card. But I feel if the opponent, you know, is, I don't know if the word is gutsy, but plays all their cards in the same exact kind of sleeves, main deck, extra, and side, you'll never know. You'll never know. Like, they literally could just do that to you, and you'd honestly never know. If they played all of their cards in, like Kaiba Corp sleeves or Blue Eye sleeves or something, you honestly would probably never know. So I think it's pretty crazy that a card like this exists. I feel it really does change the way Games 2 and Game 3 will be played, because you need to be smart. You do not want to walk into this card, you guys. Trust me. When they can summon anything from their extra deck and you have no idea what they're playing, you have a general idea now because of all the videos that have been made on this card, what people are playing, but there are a lot of options, you guys, and that's what I invite you to share in the comments below. Please let me know what card you would play or cards you would play with Waking the Dragons and why. What effect do you feel they would have against the meta? And are you personally siding this card? I definitely think this card is worth side decking. I think this card is insane, and I don't care if the opponent knows it's coming in. It means they are not gonna touch my back row, because they're gonna walk into something they don't want to walk into. So in a sense, it's a double-edged sword. It really does. You know, the opponent might see you siding an extra deck cards, but they might also know, oh man, I can't just blindly pop back row. And that's where the mind game is, and that's where the player interaction comes in. And I think it's gonna be really crazy what this card does and continues to do in our current meta. So yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. Let me know another card you'd like me to talk about here on how meta relevant is this card. We're going to be doing more how to beat this deck. I know people have been requesting Altergeist since Tristan got his win, and there's been multiple tops with the deck. If there's any other decks you want me to talk about, I was going to talk about how to beat the Layer of Darkness Infernoid deck, but to be honest, I'm not so sure if that deck is doing a lot. I could be wrong, but just let me know. Let me know exactly what you guys would like to see. I'll share it again in the community tab, and we can go from there. Again, shout out to all my Patreons. Really appreciate you guys. And yeah, let me know what you'd like to see here next on the channel. There'll be more deck profiles, working on getting the days for YCS Jersey. So once that goes in, you guys will be, of course, the first to know that I got the days. And that'll be another YCS, and then we'll be going to Nationals in Dallas. So gonna be a pretty busy next couple of weeks, but definitely looking forward to it. Love the game, love everything about it. And I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to playing Brandish. So expect a lot of videos with that content coming soon. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to like our Facebook page, Team Dank Deals, best team ever, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.